Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, watching the massive alien ship appear in Earth's orbit. The vessel was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its dark metal hull stretched for miles, covered with strange symbols that glowed with purple light. Weapon ports lined its sides like deadly eyes staring down at the planet below. "Sir, incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, showing a creature that made Jake's stomach turn. The alien had gray skin that looked like old leather, with 4 arms and eyes that burned like orange fire. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Zexthul of the Kethvar Empire," the creature announced. "We have been watching your world for its entire existence. You are children playing with dangerous toys. Your species achieved basic communication only 150 of your years ago. Before that, your planet was silent and empty of intelligent life." Jake kept his face calm, but inside he was amazed. The aliens thought Earth was only 150 years old because that's when humans first started using radio signals. They had no idea that human civilization went back thousands of years. They didn't know about ancient Egypt, Rome, or any of Earth's long history. "We demand to speak with your leaders," Zexthul continued. "The Kethvar Empire has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. We will teach you how to grow up properly. Submit to our guidance, and we will protect you from the dangers of space." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same thought on every face. The aliens thought humans were babies who had just learned to talk. "Orders, sir?" asked Commander Lisa Green, his second in. "Command." "Take us to Earth Defense Command," Jake said. "And Lisa, make sure our stealth systems are running at full power. Let them think we're just a simple patrol ship." The USS Vengeance was actually one of Earth's most advanced warships, equipped with quantum drive engines and adaptive armor that could change shape and appearance. But to alien sensors, it looked like a basic metal ship with primitive rockets. This was exactly what Earth's leaders wanted. 2 hours later, Jake sat in the underground command center beneath New York City. President Lisa Carter paced back and forth in front of a wall of screens showing the alien fleet. There were 12 ships now, all surrounding Earth like hungry wolves. "They think we're primitives," said Commander Ryan Brooks, Earth's top intelligence officer. "Our long-range sensors show they've been watching us for decades, but only since we started broadcasting radio signals. They missed everything before that." Dr. Amanda Price, the chief scientist, pulled up a holographic display. "Their technology is impressive but old-fashioned. They're using energy weapons and force fields that we figured out how to counter 20 years ago. They think we're too young to understand advanced science." President Carter stopped pacing and looked at Jake. "Captain Morrison, I want you to take the Vengeance on patrol missions around the solar system. Let them see you flying around, but make it look like you're just exploring. Don't let them know you're actually mapping their positions and studying their defenses." Jake nodded. "What about the shipyards on the dark side of the moon and in the asteroid belt?" "They still think those are mining operations," Brooks replied, with a smile. "The stealth fields are working perfectly. They can't detect our real fleet." The next day, Jake received another shock when Governor Veltar arrived on Earth. This alien looked different from Admiral Zexthul, with smooth blue skin and only 2 arms, but its attitude was just as arrogant. It spoke to President Carter, like she was a small child. "Your people will provide us with 1 million tons of iron ore each month," Veltar announced during the first meeting. "You will also give us examples of your most advanced technology so we can study how primitive minds attempt to create useful tools." President Carter bowed her head and acted humble. "Of course, Governor. We are honored by your guidance." Jake watched from the back of the room and had to bite his tongue to keep from laughing. The most advanced technology they would show the aliens was actually stuff from 50 years ago. The real advanced technology was hidden in secret laboratories deep underground. After the meeting, Jake walked with Dr. Price through the hallways beneath the city. She showed him laboratories where scientists were already studying captured alien materials. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a piece of metal from the alien ship's hull. "They're using titanium steel composites that we stopped using in 2350. Our current hull materials are 3 times stronger and half the weight." "What about their weapons?" Jake asked. "Plasma cannons and particle beams," Dr. Price replied. "Dangerous. But they work on principles we've known about for decades. Our quantum disruptors can phase right through their shields." Jake felt a surge of pride in his species. Humans had spent centuries learning, growing, and improving their technology. They had fought wars, explored space, and pushed the boundaries of science. Meanwhile, these aliens had become lazy and arrogant from ruling over weaker species for so long. Over the next few weeks, Jake took the USS Vengeance on regular patrol missions throughout the solar system. The alien ships followed him sometimes, but they clearly weren't worried about a single human vessel. To them, it probably looked like a child riding a bicycle next to their massive war machines. But Jake was gathering valuable intelligence. He mapped every alien ship's position, studied their patrol patterns, and analyzed their weapon signatures. The data flowed back to Earth's military commanders, who were quietly preparing for the day when the pretending would end. "Sir, Lieutenant," Collins said during one patrol near Mars, "the alien ship Deathclaw is hailing us again." This had become routine. The aliens would call the Vengeance and ask mock questions about human technology, clearly amused by what they thought were primitive attempts at space travel. "Put them through," Jake said. The alien captain appeared on screen, its reptilian face twisted in what might have been a smile. "Human vessel, we observe you collecting rock samples near the Red Planet. Are you perhaps trying to understand basic mineral composition?" Jake put on his best confused expression. "Yes, sir. We're still learning about space. Thank you for letting us practice." The alien captain laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "How amusing. Take your time, little humans. We have all the patience in the galaxy for children learning their first lessons." After the transmission ended, Jake looked at his crew and saw the same controlled anger on every face. These aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. They thought humans were weak and stupid because they looked young and inexperienced. But humans had something the aliens had lost long ago: the ability to learn, adapt, and surprise their enemies. Soon, very soon, the Kethvar Empire would learn just how dangerous it was to underestimate the human race. The USS Vengeance and her crew were ready to show them that Earth's children had grown up to become something far more dangerous than the aliens could possibly imagine. The human shuttle docked with the Xanthari ship 3 hours after the battle ended. Veltar waited nervously in the cargo bay, surrounded by his crew. None of them knew what to expect from their rescuers. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Captain Jake Morrison stepped through. He was not what Veltar had imagined at all. The human was tall, much taller than most galactic species. He had short brown hair and blue eyes that seemed to see everything at once. But what struck Veltar most was how he moved. Every step was controlled and graceful, like a predator walking through tall grass. Behind Morrison came 2 other humans. A woman with dark hair carried medical equipment, and a man with tactical gear scanned the area with alert eyes. All 3 moved with the same dangerous grace. "Commander Veltar," Morrison said, extending his hand in what Veltar recognized as a human greeting gesture. "I'm Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Lisa Chen and Lieutenant Alex Rodriguez." Veltar carefully shook the human's hand, surprised by its strength and warmth. "Captain Morrison, we cannot thank you enough for what you have done. You saved all our lives." Morrison smiled, and the expression was both friendly and unsettling. "Just doing our job, Commander. Mind if Dr. Chen checks your crew for injuries? Space battles can be rough even when you're not in the fighting. As the human doctor began examining the Zenthari crew with strange instruments, Veltar studied Morrison carefully. The human captain looked relaxed and casual, but there was something underneath. Something that reminded Veltar of the great predators from his home world. "Captain," Veltar said hesitantly, "forgive my curiosity, but your species is not in our galactic databases. How long have humans been traveling between stars?" Morrison checked a device on his wrist. "About 60 years since we left our solar system. We only started exploring beyond our local region about 20 years ago." The Zenthari crew exchanged shocked looks. Kesara spoke up with obvious amazement. 20 years? But your technology, your combat abilities, they are far beyond most species with centuries of space travel. Morrison's expression grew more serious. "Yeah, well, we had good reasons to advance quickly. See, about 30 years ago, we detected radio signals from other civilizations. We realized we weren't alone in the universe." "That must have been wonderful for your people," said Dr. Zendar. Morrison's face darkened. "It was, at first, until we figured out what those signals were actually saying. Turns out most of the galaxy views species from high-gravity worlds as either slaves or threats to be eliminated. Something about Deathworlders being too dangerous to coexist with civilized society." Veltar felt ice form in his stomach. He quickly accessed his portable computer and looked up Earth specifications. What he found made him dizzy with shock. Earth's gravity was 9.8 meters per second squared, nearly 3 times stronger than most inhabited worlds. The atmospheric pressure would crush most galactic species. The oxygen content was high enough to cause fires in most organic materials. "Your home world," Veltar whispered. "It's classified as uninhabitable by our standards." "Uninhabitable?" Dr. Chen looked up from her medical scanner with a strange smile. "Earth is paradise, Commander. Most of the surface is covered with water, which we use for drinking, swimming, and recreation. We have weather systems that can generate winds over 300 kilometers per hour, and we consider them exciting. Our planet has predators that evolved alongside us for millions of years." "And humans survived all of this?" Kesara asked in amazement. "We didn't just survive," Morrison said quietly. "We thrived. Earth made us what we are. Every challenge it threw at us, we overcame. Every predator that hunted us, we learned to hunt back. Every disaster that tried to kill us, we adapted and grew stronger." Lieutenant Rodriguez joined the conversation, his voice matter of fact. "When we reached the stars and found out that most species consider a 2% oxygen atmosphere dangerous, we realized the galaxy might not be as tough as we expected." Veltar was beginning to understand something that terrified him. "So humanity had a choice when you discovered galactic civilization: hide or make sure that if anyone noticed us, they would think very carefully before starting trouble," Morrison finished. "We chose to survive, Commander. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know war in ways that most of the galaxy has apparently forgotten." Dr. Chen finished her scans and walked over to join them. "Good news, everyone. Your crew will be fine. Some minor radiation exposure and stress, but nothing serious." "Doctor," Veltar asked carefully, "may I ask what daily life is like on Earth?" Chen's smile was both warm and frightening. "Well, we live on a world where the ground sometimes moves without warning, destroying entire cities. We have storms that can level forests and floods that reshape continents. The air we breathe would poison most species, and the water we drink would dissolve their bodies." She paused, looking at the amazed faces of the Zenthari crew. "And we call it home. We raise our children there. We build beautiful cities and create art and music. To us, it's the most wonderful place in the universe." "But how do you handle the constant danger?" asked Ensign Pictol. Morrison answered this. Time. We don't see it as danger, Ensign. We see it as life. Every human grows up knowing that the universe is trying to kill them. We learn to be strong, fast, and smart, or we don't grow up at all. Rodriguez nodded. By the time a human reaches adulthood, they've survived things that would kill most galactic species as children. High gravity, dangerous weather, predatory animals, toxic environments. It makes us resilient. Veltar was quiet for a long moment, processing what he had learned. Finally, he spoke. Captain Morrison, when humanity discovered that the galaxy saw you as dangerous, why didn't you try to prove them wrong? Why didn't you show them that you were peaceful? Morrison's laugh was cold and sharp. Because they were right, Commander. We are dangerous. The difference is, we're dangerous to the right people. He gestured toward the wreckage of the Korthak, ships visible through the cargo bay windows. The galaxy has spent centuries being civilized and peaceful and diplomatic. And what has it gotten you? Pirates and slavers run free because no one wants to dirty their hands stopping them. Innocent people die while committees debate the ethics of taking action. Dr. Chen nodded. We've reviewed your historical records, Commander. In the past century, 47 species have gone extinct due to raids, wars, or systematic extermination. How many strongly worded letters did the Galactic Council send? We are not warriors, Veltar said weakly. We are scientists, explorers, philosophers. And that's wonderful, Morrison replied. The galaxy needs scientists and explorers and philosophers, but it also needs someone willing to stand between civilization and the things that want to destroy it. Rodriguez checked his weapon automatically, a gesture so natural it was clearly unconscious. Someone has to do the dirty work, Commander. Someone has to be willing to fight so that others can study stars and write poetry. So that's what humanity is? Veltar asked. The galaxy's soldiers? Morrison was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful and sad. We didn't ask for this job, Commander. We would have been happy to explore space and make friends and trade recipes. But the universe had other plans. He turned back to face Veltar directly. So yes, we're the galaxy's soldiers now. We're the ones who show up when peaceful people call for help. We're the ones who speak the only language that predators understand. The cargo bay fell silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. Outside, the debris of the Korthak fleet drifted cold and dark in space. Finally, Veltar spoke. What happens now, Captain? Morrison smiled again, and this time there was something hopeful in it. Now we get your ship repaired and escort you to safety, and we continue doing what we do best, which is making sure that when evil comes calling, it finds something worse waiting for it. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Veltar stood on the observation deck of the newly built Earth Embassy station, watching human patrol ships conduct training exercises with volunteers from other species. The sight still amazed him every day. Graceful Altarian fighters practiced aggressive attack patterns that their pilots had never imagined before. Sturdy rockback cruisers tested new human weapon systems that could punch through any armor. Scout ships from dozens of worlds flew in formation, learning tactics that had been developed in the brutal schools of Earth's ancient wars. Still having second thoughts? Admiral Jake Morrison joined him at the viewing window. The human had been promoted after leading the successful campaign against the pirate networks, though he insisted everyone still call him Jake. About what? Veltar asked, though he knew what Morrison meant. About calling for help that day. Some of your government officials have been expressing concerns about humanity's methods. Veltar considered the question carefully. It was true that many in the Galactic Council were disturbed by humanity's direct approach to solving problems. There had been formal complaints about excessive use of force and violations of established diplomatic protocols. Some species had even suggested that humans were becoming the very thing they claimed to fight against. Admiral, Veltar said finally, Do you know what I told the council when they asked me to file a complaint against your actions? Morrison raised an eyebrow in curiosity. I told them about my science officer, Kesara. She was captured by Korthak raiders 3 years ago. The first Zenthari to be taken alive by those monsters. Veltar's voice grew quiet with old pain. The council passed a resolution demanding her return. The Korthak ignored it completely. They passed economic sanctions. The Korthak found new trading partners within a week. They authorized strong diplomatic pressure. The Korthak commanders laughed at our ambassadors. Through the viewing window, they watched a human destroyer execute a perfect combat turn, its crew apparently unaffected by the massive forces involved. Kesara died in their slave pits while the council spent 6 months debating the ethics of a rescue mission. When I sent that distress call, I wasn't asking for diplomats or politicians or committee members. I was asking for someone who would actually do something. Morrison was silent for a moment, watching the training exercises continue. And that doesn't worry you? The power we're accumulating? The fear we're spreading? It terrifies me, Veltar admitted honestly. But not as much as the alternative. Before humans arrived, evil had complete freedom in this galaxy because good was too polite to stop it. Now, for the first time in centuries, predators have to worry about becoming prey themselves. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Morrison answered, and the face of Commander Sarah Martinez appeared on the screen. Her expression was serious and focused. Admiral, we've received a priority distress call from the Helix Nebula. Zalani colony ships are under attack by unknown hostiles. The colonial government is requesting immediate assistance. Morrison looked at Veltar with a questioning expression. Any idea who might be attacking the Zalani colonies? No, Veltar replied. But does it really matter anymore? Morrison's smile was sharp and confident, the expression that had become famous throughout the galaxy. Not really. Sarah, prepare the fleet. Looks like we have work to do. As alarms sounded throughout the station and human ships began moving into attack formation, Veltar reflected on how completely everything had changed since that desperate day when his research ship had drifted helpless in space. The results of humanity's intervention had been swift and decisive. The Korthak hegemony, which had terrorized trade routes for decades, had been systematically dismantled by human strike forces. Their remaining ships now flew with human observers aboard, ensuring they only attacked legitimate military targets instead of civilian vessels. The Selvari Pirate Confederation had attempted to negotiate after losing their 3 largest bases in a single week. They were now officially classified as a salvage and recovery organization, cleaning up space debris under strict human supervision. The Bruthan slave empire had simply vanished overnight. Their ships were found drifting empty throughout their former territory, with all prisoners freed and slavers nowhere to be found. Rumors said the slavers had been relocated to prison colonies where they experienced firsthand what their victims had endured. Smaller criminal organizations had gotten the message quickly. Piracy rates had dropped by 90% in sectors under human protection. Slave raids had become virtually extinct. Even legitimate governments had begun treating their citizens better, knowing that human ships might appear if reports of oppression reached Earth. The irony is perfect, Veltar said as he watched the fleet prepare for departure. The galaxy called for help and received exactly what it needed, even if it wasn't what anyone expected. Morrison nodded. Diplomacy has its place, Commander. But sometimes the most diplomatic thing you can do is speak in a language that bullies understand. Through the communication system, they could hear the human fleet coordinating their departure. Destroyer squadrons reported ready status. Cruiser groups confirmed target data. Support vessels prepared medical and rescue equipment for Zalani survivors. The Zalani won't wait 3 days for rescue, Morrison said with satisfaction. They won't be abandoned to committee debates and bureaucratic procedures, because we've taught the galaxy a simple lesson that most civilizations had forgotten. Which is? that evil actions have consequences, that there are still people willing to fight for what's right, that civilization doesn't have to be defenseless just because it chooses to be civilized. The first human ships began jumping to hyperspace, their destinations locked on to the Helix Nebula. More vessels followed in precise intervals, the entire fleet moving with the efficiency of a machine designed for war. Veltar watched them go with mixed feelings. Fear and gratitude warred in his mind as he considered what humanity had become. They were the galaxy's protectors now, but they were also its most dangerous predators. They saved innocent lives, but they did it with methods that would have horrified the old Galactic Council. "Admiral," he said, as the last ships prepared to depart. "What happens when humanity has eliminated all the obvious threats? What happens when there are no more pirates or slavers to fight?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful and slightly sad. "Then maybe the galaxy can go back to being the peaceful, civilized place it always wanted to be. Maybe scientists can study stars without looking over their shoulders. Maybe traders can travel between worlds without fear. Maybe children can grow up without learning to hide from raiders." He turned to face Veltar directly. "And maybe humans can go back to being explorers and artists and dreamers instead of soldiers. That's what we really want, Commander. A universe where nobody needs us to be the scary ones." The Iron Wolf was the last ship to leave, its engines glowing brighter as it prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Morrison headed toward the docking bay where his shuttle waited. "But until that day comes," he said over his shoulder, "evil is going to find out what happens when it picks on someone who can pick back." The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying hope to those who needed it and terror to those who deserved it. In the distance, emergency beacons from the Helix Nebula continued broadcasting desperate calls for aid. But this time, help was coming. Fast, efficient, and absolutely ruthless. The galaxy had learned to call for help when evil came knocking, and now it knew that someone would always answer. No matter how dangerous the situation or how impossible the odds. Someone who understood that sometimes the most peaceful solution was to make war too costly to consider. Someone who spoke the universal language of justice backed by overwhelming force. The age of humanity had begun, and evil would never feel safe again. Veltar watched his scanner screen as something impossible happened. The human ship appeared from hyperspace like a metal predator emerging from deep water. It was not what he expected at all. The Iron Wolf was sleek and angular, built for speed and violence. Every line of its hull suggested danger. Weapon ports covered its surface like the eyes of a spider. It was smaller than any single Korthak cruiser, but something about it made the space around it feel deadly. "By the 7 moons," whispered Kessara. "Look at those energy readings. Their reactor output is 3 times what it should be for a ship that size." Veltar studied the human vessel with growing amazement. The design was unlike anything in galactic databases. Where most ships were built for comfort and efficiency, this one looked like it was built for war. Pure, simple war. The Iron Wolf moved toward the Korthak formation with steady purpose. It did not slow down or hesitate. It approached the enemy like a shark swimming toward wounded prey. Captain Morrison's voice came over the open communication channel, calm and professional. "Korthak vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to release the Zenthari ship and withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning." The response from the Korthak war leader was exactly what Veltar expected. The alien's voice was full of cruel amusement. "Unknown species, you are clearly insane. There are 12 of us and only 1 of you. Your pathetic little ship cannot possibly threaten our fleet. Leave now, or we will add your wreckage to our collection." There was a moment of silence. Then Captain Morrison spoke again, and Veltar could hear the smile in his voice. "Well, we tried to be polite. Iron Wolf to all crew, weapons free. Let's show these pirates why Earth builds destroyers. What happened next? broke every rule of space combat that Veltar knew. Instead of keeping distance and trading long-range fire like civilized species, the human ship accelerated directly toward the Korthak formation. It moved faster than any ship. Its size should be able to move. The acceleration readings on Veltar's screen were impossible. "How are they pulling 9 gravities of acceleration?" gasped his navigation officer. "No crew can survive that kind of force." But the Iron Wolf kept accelerating, diving into the center of the enemy formation like a missile. The Korthak ships opened fire with plasma cannons and particle beams. Bright streams of energy filled space around the human destroyer. None of them hit. The Iron Wolf twisted and spun through the incoming fire with liquid grace. Its pilot seemed to know where each shot would be before it was fired. The ship danced between death rays like a leaf in the wind. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Zendar. "No computer can calculate evasion patterns that complex." "It's not a computer," Kesara said quietly, studying her readings. "There's a living being flying that ship. A living being who can react faster than our best targeting systems." When the Iron Wolf finally returned fire, the results were terrifying. Instead of energy weapons, the human ship unleashed streams of solid projectiles. They moved at significant fractions of light speed, carrying enormous kinetic energy. Veltar's instruments could barely track them. The first Korthak cruiser took a direct hit amidships. The kinetic rounds punched through its armor plating like it was paper. The impact energy vaporized entire sections of the enemy vessel. What remained drifted apart in glowing fragments. "Primitive kinetic weapons," Kesara whispered in amazement. "They're using mass and velocity instead of energy fields. It's so simple, but so effective." The other Korthak ships began maneuvering to surround the Iron Wolf, but the human destroyer was too fast. It accelerated again, pulling forces that should have killed its crew instantly. The ship spun on its axis and fired backward while still moving forward, destroying a second enemy cruiser. Veltar could not believe what he was seeing. The laws of physics seemed to bend around the human ship. Its crew was performing maneuvers that should be impossible for any living being. "Captain Morrison," he transmitted urgently, "your acceleration readings are showing over 40 standard gravities. How is your crew still conscious?" The human's laughter came back immediately. "40 gravities? That's nothing. You should see what we can do when we're really trying." 3 more Korthak ships moved to intercept, coordinating their attack patterns. The Iron Wolf responded by doing something that made Veltar's stomach turn. It performed a complete velocity reversal in less than 2 seconds, changing direction, so quickly that space seemed to ripple around it. "The G-forces!" moaned his navigation officer. "They should be dead. They should be liquefied." But the humans were not dead. Thermal scans showed them moving around inside their ship, working at their stations as if nothing unusual was happening. They seemed completely unaffected by forces that would crush most galactic species into paste. The Iron Wolf tore through the Korthak formation like a blade through silk. Its weapons fired continuously, each shot destroying or crippling an enemy vessel. The human gunners never missed. Every kinetic round found its target with devastating precision. In less than 15 minutes, 7 Korthak cruisers had been destroyed, and 3 more were drifting helplessly with their engines blown apart. The remaining 2 ships broke formation and fled into hyperspace, abandoning their prizes and their wounded. Silence filled the communication channels. The space around the Zenthari ship was full of wreckage and cooling metal. The Iron Wolf hung, motionless among the debris, its weapons still tracking potential threats. "Zenthari vessel," came Captain Morrison's voice, calm as if nothing unusual had happened. "This is Iron Wolf. Area secure. Request permission to come aboard and check. On your crew." Veltar stared at his screens in shock. In 15 minutes, 1 human ship had accomplished what the entire Galactic Council fleet could not do in months of operations. The Korthak raiders who had terrorized this sector for years were gone, destroyed, or scattered. "Permission granted," "Captain," he managed to say, "our docking bay is damaged, but we can accommodate a shuttle." "Copy that, Commander. We'll have a medical team over to check for injuries. Dr. Chen is looking forward to meeting your people." As Veltar prepared to receive his rescuers, his mind raced with questions. What kind of species could survive forces that would kill anyone else? What kind of world produced beings who treated impossible odds as entertainment? Most importantly, what did this mean for the galaxy? For thousands of years, peaceful species had lived in fear of predators like the Korthak. They had accepted that evil would always triumph because good was too civilized to fight back. But these humans were not too civilized. They were something else entirely. They were predators who hunted other predators. They were civilized beings who could become savage when necessary. The galaxy had sent out a call for help and received something unexpected. Not diplomats or peacekeepers, but destroyers. Not negotiators, but warriors who spoke the only language that bullies understood. And Veltar was beginning to think that might be exactly what the universe needed. Commander Veltar pressed his 6 fingers against the communication panel and tried to stop them from shaking. The Zenthari research ship, Peaceful Endeavor, was dying around him. Sparks flew from broken circuits, and the air tasted of burned metal and fear. Through the cracked viewing port, he could see the enemy ships. 12 massive black vessels hung in space like hungry predators. Their hulls were covered in spikes and weapon ports. These were Korthak raiders, and everyone in the galaxy knew what they did to prisoners. "Sir, they are getting closer," said his science officer, Kesara. Her blue skin had turned pale with terror. "Our shields are almost gone. The engines are dead." Veltar looked around at his crew. 23 Zenthari scientists who had never heard anyone in their lives. They studied stars and planets. They collected plant samples and recorded the songs of space whales. They had no weapons on their ship because they believed in peace. The Korthak did not believe in peace. They believed in slavery and profit. "Open emergency channels," Veltar ordered. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Send the distress call on all frequencies." The communication officer nodded and activated the transmitter. Veltar took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Commander Veltar of the Zenthari Scientific Coalition. Our research vessel Peaceful Endeavor is under attack in the Sigma 7 system. We are unarmed civilians conducting biological surveys. The Korthak have disabled our ship and are preparing to board us." He paused, watching another blast from the enemy ships shake his vessel. More lights went out on the control. "Panels! Any civilization receiving this message, we request immediate assistance. We have 23 crew members aboard. The Korthak are known to take prisoners as slaves. Please, if anyone can hear this transmission, we need help." The message went out into the darkness of space, traveling at light speed toward distant stars. Veltar knew it was probably useless. The nearest Galactic Council station was 6 days away. Even if they sent help immediately, it would take too long. The first day passed slowly. The Korthak ships surrounded them but did not attack. They were waiting for something. Maybe more ships to carry away prisoners. Maybe they were just enjoying the fear. Veltar tried to stay calm for his crew, but inside he was terrified. He had heard stories about Korthak slave pits. The lucky prisoners died quickly. The others lived for years in darkness and pain. On the second day, young Ensign Pictal collapsed from stress. Dr. Zendar gave him medicine to help him sleep, but there was nothing that could help the nightmares. "Sir," asked Kesara, "should we try to contact the Korthak directly? Maybe we could negotiate?" Veltar shook his head sadly. "The Korthak do not negotiate with prey, my friend. To them, we are just cargo to be collected." The third day brought no hope. Their distress signal continued to broadcast, but no one answered. Veltar was not surprised. The galaxy was full of peaceful species like his own. They had committees and councils and diplomatic protocols, but they had no weapons. They had no soldiers. When evil came calling, they could only write strongly worded letters of protest. On the fourth day, something changed. A new voice came through their communication system. It was different from any alien voice Veltar had ever heard. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. But there was something else in it, something that made Veltar think of sharp teeth and sudden violence. Zenthari vessel. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force destroyer Iron Wolf. We have received your distress call and are moving to your position. Estimated arrival time is 6 hours. Stay calm and stay alive. Veltar stared at the communication panel in confusion. Earth? He had never heard of such a planet. His science officer quickly searched their database of known civilizations. Sir, Kessera whispered, there is no Earth listed in the Galactic Registry. The only reference I can find is to a primitive world in the Sol system. The inhabitants are described as barely capable of chemical rocket flight. Veltar felt his hope drain away. If these humans were primitives, they would be destroyed the moment they appeared. He could not let innocent beings die trying to help them. Captain Morrison, he transmitted back, we are grateful for your response, but you must understand the situation. There are 12 Korthak battle cruisers surrounding us. These are heavily armed warships with experienced crews. Perhaps you should contact the Galactic Council instead and request proper military assistance. There was a long pause. Then the strangest sound Veltar had ever heard came through the speaker. The human was laughing, not the polite musical laughter of civilized species, but something wild and fierce. 12 ships, the human said, and Veltar could hear the smile in his voice. Well, that should make things interesting. Don't worry, Commander. We have dealt with worse odds than that. Veltar looked at his crew in amazement. What kind of species treated overwhelming enemy force as a source of amusement? What kind of beings heard about impossible odds and responded with joy? Captain, Veltar tried again. I must warn you that the Korthak show no mercy to those who interfere with their operations. They will try to destroy you before you can even get close to our position. Let them try, came the reply. Iron Wolf out. The communication channel went silent, leaving Veltar and his crew staring at each other in bewilderment. Sir, asked Dr. Zendar, what do we do now? We wait, Veltar said quietly. And we hope that these humans are not as primitive as our records suggest. But deep in his mind, a small voice was whispering something else. It was remembering the tone of that human voice, the confidence, the complete lack of fear when faced with impossible odds. Maybe, just maybe, their rescuers were not primitive at all. Maybe they were something much more dangerous. As the hours passed, the Korthak ships began to move into new positions. Their sensors had probably detected the approaching human vessel. They were preparing to destroy this foolish newcomer quickly and efficiently. Veltar found himself holding his breath as the time approached. In 30 minutes, they would learn whether their call for help had brought salvation or simply attracted another victim. The Zenthari had always believed that intelligence and peaceful intentions were the highest virtues in the universe. They were about to discover that sometimes, when evil comes calling, what you really need is someone willing to meet violence with greater violence. Someone who does not negotiate with predators. Someone who speaks the only language that bullies. Truly understand, the humans were coming, and the galaxy was about to change forever.